your screen if you want to or go over anything. And
Sure.
then, guys, please try to save any questions to the end. And then when Alan's done doing his presentation, I'm sure we'll have plenty of time after that to ask questions and go through there. And then everyone except for Alan, please mute yourself, and I'll mute myself as well, and then we'll unmute and ask questions. It's all yours, Alan.
What would you like me to start with?
If you want to start, I think maybe the 2406 is a good place, I think, on the sell side.
2406.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then we can kind of go from there because everyone's going to need that pretty much no matter what.
Yes. So I'm going to be doing these on zip forms.
Okay. And I have it set, Alan, you should be able to share.
Yep, I'm going to. I'm just
Okay.
bringing it up.
Just making sure I didn't do anything wrong. Sweet.
All right, is that sharing?
Yep, it looks perfect.
Okay. So this is the 2406, and it is a newly updated form. It was updated 8/23/24. So however you're going to be doing your whenever you're presenting a contract, if you're on the buy side, I'll start with the buy side. So on a buy side, you're going to be presenting this form with your client's offer on the 1 to 4. This form is going to be the addendum regarding broker fees. So obviously at the top, you're going to be putting in the property address, and it's very simple to fill out. There's not a lot to put into this form. Fees, cash fees are paid in this addendum, will be paid in X county. With EXP, we like you to use Travis County because that is the county where our main headquarters are located for EXP. I've spoken with TXR's, Texas Realtors legal hotline. They said this is not a drop dead field. It is not as important as it used to be. If a listing broker, if you're doing the buy side presentation, if a listing broker is insisting that you're going to be putting the county that the property is located in or the property that the title company is located in, that's going to be fine. With EXP, we would still like to see you continue to use Travis County. And if you're not with EXP and you're watching this presentation, please just get with your broker on how they would like you to fill out this form as far as what goes in, what county to put in there. So with the next thing that we're going to come down to is going to be establishing D, other broker fees. So with EXP, we are no longer doing broker to broker compensation. So with EXP, we're going to be coming down and we're going to be going right to D, Delta 2, B, Bravo. And we're going to be putting in what we are requesting as our buyer agent compensation is going to be, whether that's a flat fee or it's going to be a percentage of the sales price. We're going to be putting that on D, Delta 2, B, Bravo. So that with the way EXP is proceeding to go forward with not going to be cooperating with broker to broker compensation, we're going to be looking to get our compensation from the seller. I know we're getting a lot of questions from other brokers asking our agents, are we no longer paying buyer agents? Yes and no. The short story is no, we're not, but our sellers are, if our sellers are willing to compensate buyer's agents. And the buyer's agents from any other brokerages will be paid through putting their request for buyer rep compensation on D2B.
So Alan, just to clarify what you said, I know that's caused a lot of questions. We are, if you do your listing presentation and the seller agrees to pay the other broker, that's what we're putting in there. That's what we agree.
Correct.
So yes. Okay. So we are paying the other agent. It's not coming from a split of our commission though. Our commission is locked in for us personally, and then they're going to negotiate the other side themselves.
Correct. Looking from, especially from the Department of Justice
Okay.
and from the plaintiff attorneys out of the lawsuit out of Missouri, is they're very set in they want to see an end to cooperation compensation between brokers, because what their feelings is that it's hurts the seller, because the seller's already promising to pay compensation to a buyer's agents before they even received an offer. So that's where it's really predicated on and what it's coming out of. And with EXP and our EXP leadership is we just want to put it back into the hands of the seller and the buyer with the way that we're interpreting where the DOJ and the plaintiff attorneys are going, and they've expressed that explicitly, that they do not want to see any more cooperation broker to broker compensation. So other brokers are interpreting it and going a different direction. And if you are up against, or if you're dealing with another broker, a listing broker that is going to require you or are insisting that you do not use D2B, leadership with EXP is not going to blow up your deal. They're gonna say, okay, as long as you've submitted your original offer by putting your compensation down on D2B, if that listing broker is still insisting that you use cooperating broker to broker compensation, and they're saying go ahead, and they're insisting that you're using D1, leadership with EXP says we're not going to kill your deal, go ahead and follow whatever the broker listing broker is requesting that you do. Any questions on that? So one of the big things that when this form first came out was back in June 24, was a lot of us started contacting the TXR, because none of what the new forms came out with were addressing intermediary. So when they did the revision on 8/23/24, they
Alan,
did
sorry to
add
interrupt.
intermediary.
We have some brand new agents. Can you explain to them again what intermediary is?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
So intermediary is where the one broker is doing the deal or representing both the buyer and the seller. So intermediary can be in two different forms, or it can be either intermediary with appointments or intermediary without appointments. So intermediary without appointments is where one agent is not representing both the buyer and the seller, but they are facilitating the transaction between the buyer and the seller. So the intermediary agent without appointments is treating the buyer and the seller as customers more than clients. So they're treating each one of those with honesty and full disclosure, and honoring any of their disclosure that they have, or that they are doing with their representation with those buyers, that they are honoring their confidentiality, and they're treating them with honesty, integrity, and disclosing all material facts to both parties. They're not giving the advantage over the buyer or the seller. They're representing them evenly right down the line. Intermediary with appointments is where the broker assigns an agent to the buyer and assigns an agent to the seller. And each of those agents can represent the buyer and the seller, and they can counsel them. They can give an opinions. They can give a strategy. They can discuss with them certain ways on how they can counter or they can approach the transaction. And so it's more that they are treating them as the buyer and the seller as they are their own individual client and agent. So they still need to treat them with full disclosure, confidentiality, but they can counsel them as far as what they should be offering, what they should counter offer, and really taking them under the wing and still giving the buyer and the seller full fiduciary responsibilities.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
So with this new form, now we're able to discuss intermediary on this 2406. So if you're in an intermediary relationship with your buyers and your sellers, this is where we will put on this form that we won't be using the D2B. We will be putting the buyer agent request for compensation right down an E on intermediary broker fees, and this again can be either a flat fee or a percentage of the sales price. Other than that, all we're going to be doing with this form is the buyers and the sellers, both buyers, both sellers, or how many buyers and sellers we have. I was talking with an agent today. It was a inheritance, and in probate, there were 7 individuals on the buy side. So we would need to make provisions to be able to have all 7 of them to be able to sign this document. So a lot of that is still going to be the same. This form is really coming out of the change where we no longer have the promise to compensate a buyer's agent through the MLS. Previously, before this changed, that was all covered in the MLS, but through the MLS or through the NAR settlement agreement, we no longer can have the posting of what we're paying buyer reps on the MLS. So now we need these forms to be able to agree and to lock in what the buyer rep is going to be receiving. If you're going to be going with D1 or D2, make sure that you're also submitting the TXR 2402, which is the compensation agreement between brokers. If you're clicking D2A, then you're going to be wanting to use the TXR 2401, which is the compensation agreement between broker and owner. So those two are not new forms. They're just a revamped form of what we previously used to use. So if you are still doing cooperative broker compensation between brokers, which I would say would be the old way of doing it, the way we did it forever, and it was the standard way, that you're going to be needing to use 2 forms, which is the TXR 2402 or the TXR 2401, along with the addendum regarding broker fees. Now, when you're using the addendum regarding broker fees, make sure on your 1 to 4 is at page 11, or the page where we have the additional addendums to be added to the contract. This is not added, this is not included in the list, but Under other, make sure that you are adding the TXR 2406 to make it tied into the contract.
So if I understand right, Alan, just to clarify again for everybody, we always say I'm buying a home. I'm the buyer's agent. I mean, sorry, my client's buying a home, and I submit an offer. I do the 2406 and say they're saying please send it broker to broker. Then I would do that top form, the 2402, I think it is.
Correct.
And then if I want to do it the way EXP, I would do either 2401, the B 2B, or I would do 2A, I mean 2401, or 2B, which is like you said before, the agreement between broker and owner.
With EXP, where the way we want you to do it is only using D to B.
Okay, got it.
And the main reason and the philosophy behind us taking that is because if you watch everything that is transpiring with the settlement is, as I said earlier, the settlement and the parties on the other side from NAR really want to see cooperation between brokers as far as setting broker to broker compensation goes. They want it to end. So the philosophy with EXP's leadership is that this is going to end. If it doesn't end, it's probably going to be leading into more lawsuits. And one of the ways that we've gotten ahead of this is that we are no longer going to be cooperating or doing cooperating broker and paying broker to broker compensation. So if it does come to another lawsuit, EXP will be able to petition the court and say, we are no longer participating in that. We haven't been, we have the proof. Please excuse us from this lawsuit. That's the philosophy behind it. And it's more and more. Next Home is probably the other large national firm that has come out and has decided to go the way that EXP has by no longer participating in broker to broker compensation. And they have completely stopped doing this. And California got a cease and desist order from the Department of Justice, and they had to rewrite all of their contracts, all of their forms to completely eliminate broker to broker compensation or
Hey, Bonnie,
cooperative brokers.
do you have a quick question, Bonnie?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what instances we'd use each one of those numbers in D. So when we're submitting an offer, we're automatically just going to do, because EXP wants to do number 2, D2B. But if the if the listing agent is asking us to change it because that's how I guess their broker wants them to do it, we can, as long as we use it in conjunction with either TXR 2401 or TXR 2402. Is that correct?
Right. So if the listing broker is insisting that we do not, with EXP, in the example,
Mm-hmm.
they do not want to have this filled out with D2B. More likely, they're still doing a cooperative broker. So they're doing a listing agreement where they are doing 3%. This is just for an example, 3% for the listing agent, 3% for the buyer's agent. So they're doing cooperative broker to broker compensation. So if they set up their listing agreement that way, then they're going to insist that the EXP agents resubmit this form with D1 filled out. And
Okay.
so if they want us to do that, make sure that you go ahead and submit the TXR 2402.
Okay.
Because that falls under under this black highlighted specified amount is for informational purposes only and does not change the compensation specified in specific written. So we need to add that. There's a lot of brokers that are saying don't, but do. If you're going to go with D1, make sure that you are also including the TXR 2402.
Okay.
Because
Okay,
that is the instructions to title how to disperse the escrow.
Okay. And then I have another question.
Sure.
So like logistically, because this happened to me last week on one of my listings. I had someone submit this form to me and wouldn't send me an offer until my seller agreed to pay what they were going to be asking. Is that how we're supposed to do it?
No.
Okay.
And that is not what they're supposed to be doing at all. And that falls into steering. And if you ever get, if you're with EXP and you ever get anything like that, and you get it in writing, you get it in a text, you get it in an email, send it to me. Because that is blatantly against what NAR wants us to do. It is against NAR's ethics, because that is putting that agent's wishes and interest above their clients. Because when you read NAR with our ethics, we as agents with NAR, we pledge we will not put our interest above that of our clients, and that includes compensation and commissions. So agents that are out there steering and telling listing agents, we're not going to show your property unless you tell us exactly what the seller is going to compensate us, is really walking down the line of really, I mean, that is a line I do not ever want to see any agents that work under me do. We should be out there regardless, and we shouldn't even be asking technically what the listing agent is offering. If our clients want to see a property, we should just set up the showing and we should go and show the property.
Okay.
And submit our offer through the TXR with what we are asking as a buyer agent for our compensation.
Just
Okay.
remember, guys, just because they say they're only doing 2% or 1%, you can now get your buyer's commission can come out of seller contributions. So you can get seller contributions extra, cover your commission in that, as long as it works in the deal, of course. And then your buyer won't have it out of pocket. And then even though your buyer tenant rep might say they're responsible, you can cover that with commissions. And Bonnie and myself can explain, how to do that better.
Yes, and it's in what we all have to keep in mind going forward is by NAR agreeing to this and this whole thing set up the way it is, and the settlement the way it came down, is they broke the box, they broke the mold. So we have agents doing so many different things as far as what it's going to take to be able to cover the buyer agent's compensation. Within reason, we've done deals, we've looked at deals with some of our agents where the seller has sent in an amendment to increase the sales price to cover a 5% or a 0.5% shortfall in what they promised to pay their buyer agent. So they submitted an offer. The seller said, I counter, and I'm only going to pay the buyer. I will directly pay the buyer rep 2.5%, but the buyer rep has a 3% buyer rep agreement with the seller. And but the seller says, okay, I will honor that, I will accept that, but let's increase the sales price to the equivalent of that 0.5% to cover that shortfall that I owe my buyer agent. So don't be stuck in the old paradigm on how everybody's going to get paid. We just use creativity, and we can bring it all together where this will work for everybody involved in the transaction.
Exactly. Alan, can you, I don't know if you have, I'm just looking at our time. We're doing pretty good. I want to make sure we cover, if we can show the 2402 or 2401, and then also the buyer tenant rep, to make sure that people see the short form.
Sure. Do you want to do the 2402 or the 2401?
Yeah, let's do 2402 and 1 real quick. And then after that, we'll be able, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, let's do the 2401 and 2402. And then we'll do the
Okay.
buyer tenant ref if we can, if that works.
Sure.
And if we need to come back and do another class, we can, about how to get your commission through creative financing. We can do a class on that, no problem.
That would be perfect. So this is not a new form. It used to be registration between broker and owner. This used to be the form that we always used to call the FSBO form. So if you had a for sale by owner, this is the form that you used to present to a for sale by owner to establish what commission that the for sale by owner was going to pay you. And here again, these forms are, one form pretty much mirrors so many of the other forms. So the parties are going to be the same. The property is pretty much going to be the same. The asking price is going to be the same. One of the difference that I know we get a lot of questions from agents is, what is a prospect? So the prospect is whoever the buyer agent is representing in the deal. So that's what you're going to put in here. That's who you're registering. So it's your client, your buyer client is who you're going to be putting in here. So the terms are going to be, so if you're presenting this to a buyer, an owner in this situation, so what you're going to want to do is the term begins on the day that you're going to be presenting this, and the term ends, pretty much around the closing date. I always suggest that you want to add more days than what is the established closing date, because that's going to save you, if the closing needs to be pushed back, then having to rewrite this and get this updated and amended. So add more time to the end of it. And when you're talking to the owners, it doesn't, you can just tell them it's really irrelevant what the end date is, because this agreement does not outlast the deal. So if this deal closes, this agreement is over. So it's not like it's going to be going on into perpetuity. So it is, once this transaction is closed, done, funded, over, this agreement is going to be null and void. But keep in mind that more than likely, more often than not, closing dates are pushed back. So if you add a little bit on the term, on the end date, it can save you from having to rewrite this or amend this. So the sales, all of this is still going to be pretty much the same. The owner agrees to sell part, all of the term, and then it's going to be, either a flat fee or a percentage of the sales price, or a flat fee that you're going to be going in, and that's going to be totally negotiable. And so a lot of this is, for the most part, it's, if you're doing a sale, it's not going to be relevant, but this can be used for leases also, which now, depending on how a lease is written, because even though leases are not fall under the NAR settlement agreement, all of the MLSs took out any of the compensation agreed, where the agreed upon compensation rate that the listing agent will or the seller will compensate the tenant representative. They've taken them all out of the MLSs. So when you're doing leases, you're still going to need to use this agreement, either the agreement between broker and owner, or the agreement between broker and broker. So this does address leases. So this is still relevant when it comes to if you're doing lease agreements, because there is no promise to pay the tenant agent on the MLS anymore. So we're still going to need this form. The 2406 is designed to address sellers and brokers. Nothing in that form addresses tenants and leasing agents. So if you're doing leases, you're going to need to use this form, compensation agreement between broker and owner. Any questions on that? Do
think we're
very
good,
many of
Alan.
you do
Let's jump to the
leases?
next one. Yeah,
Are you guys doing any leases?
I do a couple. Um, go ahead. Whoever's talking.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I recently did a lease and it was like right at the same time this change was happening. So I don't think I even got this. I mean, I sent over the invoice, but this was actually never filled out. Can you do it after?
Yes. So going forward, just fill this out, whether or not you need to send it to the lease listing agent or to the landlord themselves. Because now that this promise of compensation to the tenant is off of the MLS, we have lost that protection. So you do definitely want to, with leases, you definitely want to use this form to establish your compensation that you're going to be paid, whether it's from the listing broker or from the landlord.
Do you know if SkySlope is going to add this like as a checklist? Because I mean, I think I would have done it if it was on there, and I don't think
I will check to make sure that it's on there. We're completely updating the templates and the our checklist. So we're working on the checklist and the templates to make sure that these are in here. But tomorrow I will get with transactions to make sure that we're going to be putting this in there. Because now that it's not listed on the MLS anymore, even though leases, commercial, do not fall under the TXR or the NAR settlement agreement, they still pulled all those compensation agreements off of the MLS.
Thank you.
So the 2402, this is going to be the agreement between brokers. And again, it can be used on sale or for leases. And it's mirrors the compensation agreement between brokers and owners. So it's the registration is the client. And I don't know why they didn't update the compensation agreement between brokers and owners, because here they did amend this one to say it's your client. And they didn't on the other one. So the term is going to be the same intention with the term. It's going to be the closing date, but I would still add a few more days to it in case the closing date gets pushed back a few days. Again, it's going to be, whether or not it's a sale, it's a lease. So this is definitely a form that's going to be able to establish the tenant or the buyer agent's compensation when it comes from a cooperating broker. And EXP still will do cooperating broker fees on leases because leases are not included in the NAR settlement agreement. So you have the opportunity to be able to write your leases that there won't be another broker and that they are going to have to, it's all open to negotiation, but you can do a lease agreement where you are promising to pay a cooperating broker. So these forms are pretty much identical, other than This is with the 2401, the seller is promising and pledging to pay the other broker, and the 2402, the listing broker is pledging to pay the other broker. Any questions on this one? What would you like to go over next, Andrew?
Can we do the short form buyer tenant rep? I don't think, and just kind of let them know. I know in the long form it has bonuses, it doesn't in the short. But some people might want to use the short maybe for like rentals or something. I don't know.
Sure. How many of you all use zip forms still?
I love zip forms.
I started with it and I still,
You're doing it the hard way. You need to have your templates set up. I have a
I
template.
do,
Yeah.
I
You
do,
I have
I
one
do
just
have
for the
them.
new forms. Yeah.
Can you also show us on the long form of the buyer's rep how you would fill in for bonuses?
Sure.
Thanks.
So this is the TXR short form. And here again, it's pretty straightforward on what you're going to do. So what I love about the short forms, and I'll show you the EXP short forms also. But this form gives you a couple different options that no other form gives you when it comes to representing buyers. It gives you under number 5. So here, it's pretty straightforward what we always do. You have your parties, you have appointments, you have the definition of the market area. So you're going to put this, you have the term of how long this form's going to last. And I'll come back to definitions of the market area in a minute. But what's so unique about this form that no other form has is you can either pick full service or you can pick showing service only, which does give you an option or the ability to be able to charge potential buyers per showing. And EXP is still working on a app that you'll be able to, through a QR code, giving a buyer a QR code that they'll be able to scan it and pay EXP for that showing. So you can go in and pay and charge $100 a door, $25 a door, $40, $50, $100 per door. So I don't really think this form has really come into its own yet, but I think it's going to become more relevant as things progress. And when I did some of the classes earlier, I had some agents said that this is going to cheapen the industry. But to me, I like this form because if I have a buyer in front of me, this gives me one more option to be able to put them into a buyer rep agreement and to be able to work with them, to show them my value, to show them what I'm able to bring to them that's going to help them be able to get the house that they're looking for. So granted, it's yes, maybe I'm doing maybe some showings for $25 a door, $100 a door, but it's given me an opportunity to put my best foot forward and work with them and be in a position where I can take them from a showing service to a full service. So I'm
This
looking
is
at it
great
like this
too.
is a marketing opportunity.
I love it too. I didn't mean to interrupt, Alan. I love it too. I like to use this if you're doing rentals. This is a
Yes.
great thing to do. This is why I mentioned the rental thing. Like I do a lot. I talk to a lot of people about rentals and stuff. That's a great way to get buyers who are first-time home buyers. But if they're like, no, I just want to look at rentals, you can charge $100 a door, or I say, no problem. I'll open 4 doors. I charge $300, open 4 doors, and then either have the app or a cashier's check in EXP's name ready to go. And then you
Yep.
show up, you get the money, and they don't won't pay you, and sign this form. Then you just drive away.
Yep. No,
It
that's
gives you
perfect.
something. And then if they
And
put
once
you
we
as the
get
agent,
that,
you get paid again. Yeah.
yeah, and once we get that app set up, I know I'm almost sure that in Texas, um, Monica Foster's team is one of the beta that are testing it. And so there are some big teams around the country that are beta testing that QR code system. So you can, and like what Andrew said, you can say, okay, I'll go show you these four. And they can just scan the code, pay it. It goes directly to EXP. You've already set up your, that once you set up your SkySlope account, it automatically gets connected to that. And then when you're out there and you agree on doing 4 or 3 showings, and they say, hey, what about, you come up on another one, this one just came available, here, scan the code, bang, you take them to go to the other one. But the main thing, and I love what Andrew was saying, you're engaging them, you're keeping them, and you are staying in front of them. You're just not saying, no, I'm not going to show you unless you get a full buyer rep. But you're having that time and that platform to be able to show what your value proposition is to them, whether it's on rentals or it's to moving them up into being home buyers.
And if you play with if you do this correctly and have new homes ready, I know Bonnie in your team, she has a lot of new homes she works with. If you can find some rentals for the same price monthly payment as new homes, you show the rentals and then you just tell them, hey, you know what? I have one more home to show you. And then you show them the new home for the same price as rentals. And then if they want to go with you, that first one under 5, you could switch them over now to a full service. You can do an addendum, be full service now, and then that fee they paid can just be credited back at closing as part of your commission. And then that makes them think that it wasn't wasted.
So that is exactly why I pushed back when I was doing those talks earlier, where some of the agents said this just cheapens, that showing service cheapens our industry. And I totally disagree with that. That is, to me, it's just another way that you can have an opportunity to serve a buyer and to make sure that you are being front and center with that buyer, being able to show them your value add and keeping them engaged with you. And like I said, I just look at this like this is marketing. This is why pay, if you did it for free, you're saying, well, I would have paid $100 to meet with this buyer anyway, or this renter anyway. So, it is a marketing tool, it's a marketing expense. And once you get that position where they're trusting you, wanting to work with you, like Andrew said, you just do the amendment to the buyer rep and you switch them over to a full service. And you've done that with 2 forms.
So the marketing side of that, after I've shown them the homes and I've charged them $300 and we switch them to full service, we could turn around and say, I'll credit you back the $300 at closing.
You should, and
Right.
you can also do it. You can say, I'm going to show you homes, $300. I'm also going to show you 1 or 2 homes that you can own for the same price as renting. And if you don't like those are fine, then it's 300, you're good. If you do like them and you want to move forward to own your own home, then that fee is a credit that you can use later, and I can give that to you back at closing or help you use it for closing cost.
Right. That's what I meant at closing. If they
Right.
chose
Mike,
to buy something, not continue to rent.
I'm already way ahead of you. I already went over with transactions and got the approval with EXP. With EXP, you can flat out tell them, if you do sign and buy with me, whatever you pay me as a showing service, I can guarantee you we will give you back 100% of what you paid me. So EXP will reimburse the seller whatever percentage EXP took off of those showing service fees.
That's
So if
great.
you collected $500, they sign with you, they buy with you, you can give back the full $500, your cut, EXP's cut, back to them at closing.
Can you show the longs? I know we're running out of time. Can you show the long form as well? And then I wanted to show the addendum to it as well, because the addendum talks about bonuses in it. Maybe show the
Sure.
addendum first, or I don't, either up to you. We want to show both.
So this is an amendment to the buyer tenant representation agreement. This is good for either the long form or the short form. So if you're using the short form, you're going to be coming down and going to C. And as Andrew said, you're going to be switching either from a full service or showing service. So if you already signed them up on a showing service and they want to lock in and have you represent them, you'll pull out this form and you will click off. This is going to go to a full service. You're going to want them, as always, you're going to want to explain to them how intermediary works and the value of intermediary, especially with us being with EXP, and we have over 8,000 agents in the state of Texas. So the likelihood of either showing or them wanting to purchase a property listed by a EXP agent is pretty, it's there. It's relatively high. So, with the number of listings that we have. So we always want to talk to them and truly have them understand the benefit of using and approving us to do buyer or to do intermediary. So here in E is so here you're going to be talking about what you're going to be charging as far as your buyer rep agreement, whether it's 3%, 2%, because you got to remember with the buyer rep agreement, we have to be clear and concise, and so basically what it comes down to, the simplest way to explain what NAR is expecting of us, it is a clear set percentage or a flat fee. It's 3%, 2.5%, $500, $1,000, $10,000. It is clear and concise on what we are charging the buyer when it comes to buyer representation compensation. But we also have the opportunity on this that we can click E for bonuses and what we're going to do. So let's say you already have a buyer's rep agreement in place where the buyer is going out and you're looking at resale properties. For the most part, you're going to be safe when you're doing a resale property and you set your agreement at 3%. All of a sudden, they come in and say, hey, I saw, Pulte Homes and they're, in this subdivision, I love those houses. And they got, quite a few, finished homes in those neighborhoods. Can we go over and take a look at them? And so what you're going to want to do with this amendment is that you're going to call that Pulte subdivision and find out what they're paying or what they're offering buyer reps. And so if that Pulte is offering, 4% plus X amount of bonus to a buyer agent on the sale of, existing inventory homes, this is where you're going to be filling this out. So what you're going to want to do is the market area is, instead of putting Bexar County, San Antonio, MLS service area, what you're going to be wanting to do if you're dealing with a new home buyer and it is subdivision specific, you're going to be putting Perry Homes, Sunset Ridge subdivision 4% plus $10,000, this is just an example, $10,000 buyer agent bonus on existing inventory homes. So in that market area, you're gonna write that out clear and concise. And then, then you can put down here, click. Then you can write it out even more. And then here again, you can put in, and the property address, you can put that in again as far as the subdivision. It doesn't have to be a property address. It can be for the subdivision. Do you follow that?
So this is good, I always say I don't know that a new builder has a bonus, and I have the buyer Tina rep signed, and then the builder's like, oh, like a lot of them right now are 6-7%. If I do a 6% on my buyer center reps only signed for 3, we have to disclose how much we're making in commission. So then I do that section E there, and the other one, put my bonus in there, and then my client knows I'm getting a bonus as an addendum.
And the builder knows.
And the
See,
builder,
what's going on now is that KV started it, DR Horton now does it, Castle Rock is doing it, Lennar is doing it, and there's a few more that are doing it where they are requiring the buyer agent to submit a copy of their buyer rep agreement to the builder. So what they're
I've even
trying
had
to
title
do, even though
companies tell me that
they're
they're going to start it too.
who is?
Some title companies are going to want to see now this form, if you have a new home, to show that the builder agreed to pay you the commission on the builder. So builders are now saying, because I have a title company I work with that has builder clients, and they're saying, with the builder bonuses, if the agent doesn't have this signed, they can't pay that much anymore by law. You can only pay, like you said, up to the buyer tenant rep.
It's not by law.
Okay.
It's by an agreement with the National Association of Realtors and their members. But what I'm telling any buyer rep or anybody that's working with buyers, that the buyer is interested in a new build, is to either use this form, the 1505, or use EXP's single showing. And what you're going to want to do is make sure in the market area on this form and plus in this form is to call ahead, find out exactly what the builder is compensating buyer reps, and write that in. And when you go there and the sales agent asks you, can I see a copy of your buyer rep agreement? You can say, sure can. And guess what? My buyer rep agreement matches exactly what you're advertising and offering buyer agents. Funny how that works. Because NAR has come out and said, and it's in their FAQs, any one broker can have as many buyer rep agreements as needed with any single buyer. So you are not stuck with one single buyer rep agreement. You can amend them, you can add new ones, you can have them specific, and you can do them specifically for each subdivision that the buyer. Like Lennar, you're probably getting them in San Antonio. I get them probably once a week. Lennar sends me a thing on New Braunfels neighborhoods. There's like 5 neighborhoods in New Braunfels, and each neighborhood has a different buyer rep compensation. So before you go, you take the time, either you use this or EXP's one-time single showing agreement. You write it out in the market area. You fill out exactly what that builder is offering in that neighborhood, and you go and show and say, do you want to see my buyer rep agreement? Here you go. What we're looking for our agents, and this comes from my leadership, is that if you ever get anything in writing where the builders are asking you specifically for this, for your buyer rep agreement documents, let me know. let any of the brokers know, because we will take it and we will give it to legal. And they shouldn't be doing it. And it is a, well, what do they call it? Constraint of trade or something like that, that, it is, they are trying to use this not to the betterment of the general public and consumer, is they're trying to use it as a way that they're able to circumvent and not have to pay a buyer agent what they are advertising as far as compensation goes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So would I use E and then enter the dollar amount if, let's say, I have 3% on my buyer's rep and my client ends up contracting on a home that's paying 7%? I would need to do this amendment and fill in D or E. Oh, wait. It would be E, right? Or is that only for an actual bonus? Like if they're
So
stating
if let's say, they're from time to time, the different builders are going to be offering an elevated percentage of the sales price plus a bonus a lot of times. So if they are only offering, if you can put in D, and then you can put, if they're offering 7%, then you can put this in. And then for a property here, you're going to be able to put in, any inventory home that in X neighborhood.
So after the fact, though, like let's say my buyer's rep has 3%, and then it ended up that they contracted on a home that was paying 7%. I still now need to go and amend this, correct?
This has to be done
Jesus.
before you show.
I see. Okay.
That's why I prefer that you put it in the market area. You can put in, and this is cleared, and this is well documented that NAR said is acceptable, that you can put in like Lennar Homes, Sunset Ridge subdivision, 4% plus $10,000 bonus on existing inventory homes. So you just write in like the market area exactly what that builder is advertising to pay buyer agents. You can also put that down and take that information, that 4%, and then the property or inventory homes in Sunset Ridge subdivision. And then down here, you can put the $10,000 on existing inventory homes in Sunset Ridge subdivision.
Okay.
So what they're looking for is when we write our compensation on a buyer's agency agreement, is that anybody can come along and read it and know exactly what we're being paid for. So it's clear the subdivision, it's clear the builder, it's clear that it's inventory homes or whatever they're advertising. So you just take whatever that builder is advertising and you fill it out and put it on this, or you put it on this or on the EXP single showing document, and you're going to be covered and you're going to be okayed and you're going to get paid.
Thank you.
And already with 5 builders doing it, I think even more are going to be doing it. And I talked with Dayton Schrader today for a little bit, and he said that there's more builders that are going to be lining up to be looking to be asking for buyer rep agreements. And was saying that his builders, he's saying, don't even get involved with that.
But they're not supposed to, correct?
See, but that is such a great question, and it's one that is really hard to answer because because they are not a member of the National Association of Realtors. If they were a member of the National Association of Realtors, we as members of the National Association of Realtors, we can ask a buyer's agent, do you have a buyer rep agreement? Yes or no. But we are not in a position, or through the National Association of Realtors, we cannot demand that they give us a copy.
Now, even if you're a listing agent, you're not going to demand to see the buyer's agent, buyer tenant rep, correct?
Correct, because the board of realtors that I've spoken to, and the last one was, there was a couple agents down in Corpus that were saying, you know, you cannot view the property, you cannot you can't schedule a showing on my properties unless you send me a copy of your buyer rep agreement. So we talked to the Corpus Board of Realtors, and they said no. They can ask if you have a buyer's rep agreement. They cannot demand that you, as part of being able to show a property, they can't hold that as a contingency to get a copy of it. And if anybody ever does that, let them know, and they will reach out and contact that agent and their broker and tell them, no, you can't do that. Because that buyer rep agreement is a confidential agreement between you and the buyer.
Does anyone else have any questions? What we covered so far? I think we covered the buyer tenant rep. The long form is similar. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of different changes. Some, but
Can we go through the long form
form
really quickly? Just the changes that have been made, especially the bonus section.
Well, yes, I can go over that.
Thank you.
So this is the long form. Pretty much everything is going to be the same that it's ever been. Market area. Here again, if you want to use the long form and you're dealing with builders, you can write in specifically the neighborhood, the builder, the neighborhood, and the specific compensation that the builder's offering for that specific neighborhood.
Alan, if it's just showing homes, can you just put something like MLS and surrounding areas?
Yes.
Or San Antonio market or something like that? You don't have to be that specific, do you?
No. If you're just showing homes, resale homes, and you can, like it says, you can insert property address, subdivision, city, county, zip code. You can put San Antonio MSA, which is the metropolitan statistical area, which pretty much covers Bexar County, Comal County, Kendall County, Gillespie County,
I think that would be better because a lot of times they see new homes and pre-loved homes. They don't only see one or the other.
Right. So you can put in, Comal County, Bexar County, Kendall County. You can put in here pretty much anything you want. You can, a lot of times agents will put in the San Antonio Board of Realtors MLS coverage area. So anything that falls within, which is basically the state of Texas and Houston now, the way it's all set up. But you want to make it as broad as you can, but you can narrow it. And it depending on the buyer that you're working with. Sometimes the buyer may just say, I don't feel comfortable writing a long-term contract. I'm only interested in seeing these 1 or 2 houses. And you can put those 1 or 2 houses in there. You can say this pertains only to 123 Main Street and 786, Broadway. So it's pretty much up to, the circumstances that you're working with and the buyer that you're dealing with. So the term is, start date, end date, whether or not, the jury's out on this, and there's so many things. So you're pretty much going to want to be able to get at least 6 months now out of them because, properties are staying on the market a lot longer and, it's the buying cycle is extended. And there's a lot of people out there that are saying you should only ever do a 1-year agreement. But keep in mind your responsibility if you're going to take a 1-year agreement, because that 1-year agreement is only as good as you're servicing that buyer. If you forget about them, ghost them, and don't keep in contact with them, and they end up going and buying with another agent, good luck trying to collect a commission on that, because all they're going to have to show is that you didn't keep in contact with me. It's not incumbent upon them to keep in contact with you. It's incumbent on you as the buyer agent to keep in contact with them. So, make sure if you're getting a long-term agreement term on this, that you are, and Andrew, they can use KvCORE to do that, can't they?
Yep, that's an easy way to go.
Yep. So you want to make sure that you can show that you are keeping in track, sending them properties and fulfilling all of the obligations that you are promising to do under this agreement. So here again, it's pretty simple on what you're going to be doing, the purchase to leases. So this also covers that. Intermediary, additional considerations, other compensations. So you're not going to want to put in bonuses on this, but what this does cover, if you're charging for drone, if you're charging for staging, if you're charging for pictures. So this is where you're going to be putting that information in. If
For
you're
a
getting
buyer?
What's that?
For a buyer?
Oh, this is a buyer rep.
Mhm.
No, let's say, and that's a good point. Thank you for keeping me on track on that. If you are charging for showing, if you're saying, okay, I'm going to be showing you 5 houses, and after 5 houses, I'm going to be charging more. So if there's any other mitigating circumstances that you're going to be charging the buyer any money or for out-of-pocket expenses, you would be putting it here. So do not use TBD. So we're going to want to get away from that. And if it comes to bonuses, you're going to be wanting to use the amendment to the buyer's rep agreement to put the bonuses in there. Protection period, that's still going to be the same. County, and like I said earlier, if you're with EXP, you're going to want to put Travis County. We're going to always try to start with Travis County. But if for some reason the listing broker doesn't want you to put it there, they want you to put something else there. Like I said, I've already talked with TXR Legal. It's like, it can be, it is not, they prefer that it's going to be the county that the broker's office is located in. And that's because that's notification where legal documents need to be delivered. But if they are insisting that it's like the county that the property's in, we can amend it and go along with that. And so we go through intermediary. So additional special provisions. And remember, special provisions on a 1-to-4 contract, we are never to approach those for the most part because we're not a party to the contract. But we can use special provisions on listing agreements and on buyer representation agreements because we, as the broker, as the agent, are a party to the contract. So if you do have something special or some provisions that they want to add added and you agree that you will abide by them, you can put them in special provisions. I
Does anyone have
do,
any questions? Or sorry, do you have something else, Alan?
I do like this long form because it does have the notice regarding bonuses.
Yeah, I love that part too, because it already covers you.
Yes, and it's the only form that does any buyer rep agreement that does have the notice regarding bonuses.
Does anyone have any questions or anything?
Is the 1505 the one we just went over about bonuses?
Yes, but the 1505 is the short short
Amendment.
form, but it doesn't have this notice regarding bonuses.
Oh,
Isn't the 1505 the amendment to the buyer tenant rep?
Yes, the 1505, and what is the short form was which one? The
I think it's
1507?
1507 or 2, yeah.
Yeah, the 1507. But yes, so if you're going to be having this, so the 1507, the short form does not discuss what bonuses are or how to handle them. They do that. You're going to have to refer to the TXR 1505, but the 1501 is the only buyer rep form that does specifically have a notice regarding the bonuses.
Sweet. All right, anyone else have any questions? Speak now or hold your peace.
I think I'm
Or
good.
come to see me in the broker room.
Or come see
Yeah.
Alan, or reach out to Bonnie or me or whoever. Any one of us can help you. It's better to reach
Yep.
out to Alan about contract questions, some of the brokers.
Yeah, we've been dealing with this for probably 3 months, at least since March 15th when they first announced the settlement. So I'll close with this. Now, right now this seems pretty stable on what we're doing, but what we all have to keep in mind and go on to NAR or go on to TREC, because TREC has about 11 forms that they are updating to reflect the changes in the that's come apart from the NAR settlement agreement. And those are going to take effect if they are approved the way they are. Those will take effect at the beginning of November of this year. And there are some pretty significant changes that they are doing, not only to the 1-to-4, to the third-party buyer's rep agreement, to the third-party financing addendum. So, this certainly isn't over by any means. And we're probably still going to be seeing some changes in these forms that we have right now. I am not alone with seeing that, predicting that where Texas is probably going to have to go the way that California did, where DOJ did a cease and desist when they tried to bring out their new forms, and California removed all mention and reference to broker-to-broker compensation. There is no longer anything in the California forms contracts that have to do with cooperating broker. And I don't know why they haven't come after us yet, but they probably will.
I think it's just a matter of time as well, but we'll see.
Yep. And remember, all of this is not settled until November.
Any other questions? I have a copy of this. I'm recording it. I'll send a copy to Bonnie so you can send to all your people, Bonnie. And then Mike, I'll put a copy in the group chat for our mentees.
Thank you.
And then Alan, if you want a copy, let me know and I'll send you one. It's fine.
Yeah, send me a copy.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. All right. Everyone have a great night then. Thank you for coming on so late. I know it was a wild time, but we just want to make sure everyone could hit it. If you have any
Thank you
questions,
both
reach
so
out
much.
to Alan, especially about contracts or Bonnie and myself. And you guys have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes,
Awesome.
thank you.